Okay, spot on. I guess sat in front of you are all your medals. I think we talk about the powerlifting.
Okay.
How did you get into that?
Well, I got into powerlifting. I was working in the gym. I was just training sometimes multiple times a day. I was fairly lean. And one of my older siblings, he said, he was pushing me to compete. He said, you should probably compete. And I was and ahhing because I'm not that confident, to be honest. I'm quite reserved, to be honest. So, and then I was like, oh, okay. I spoke to one of my colleagues at work, just a colleague who I worked with in the gym, and he was like, I know a strength coach. He's like, you couldn't do the bodybuilding, you're too shy, but he's helped me with spot me on some reps. So he was like, you're quite strong. Maybe go speak to him. So this was a guy that he used to work with in another branch of this gym. So then he told me what to do. He was like, he'll test you on a squat, bench, and deadlift. And I was like, I tried to squat on a Smith machine, I think, just to try get me ready, and did something like 160 or something stupid. So tested it all on one day, and then I went to see him, and he did like a kind of like a conservative max. So he was looking at my lift, seeing where it broke down, and he was pretty impressed. Although he was like, he's too tall to be weighing that much and lifting that weight. He was like how he's probably like really skinny. He saw the lifts and he was impressed. So he was like, yeah, do you want to do a competition? So I think I was junior at the time. It was British drug free. And then I did it. And I think I was one of a few juniors. And I think it was the English and I came first. So from there, I was kind of like, that kind of gave me the momentum to push on and started competing quite regularly. He started periodizing my training, and just from there started doing more divisionals, and yeah, I think it started to take off, to be honest. So.
I came first of English in your first comp and was just rocked up after squatting on a Smith machine. That's fucking mental.
Yeah, man.
Wow. Wow. That's one pretty impressive start.
Yeah, I think to be honest, at the time when I was training, I was playing football as well. So the only sport I really played was football, and I played at a decent level at high school. So I got picked for the borough. So the best of the schools, you represented your borough against other boroughs. So I was on the verge, but I never really took it that seriously. And then powerlifting was like my second opportunity. I think in between playing football and going to the gym, I had my troubles, and this is where I got into trouble, as in I did some time in prison. So actually, what I'm talking about, how I got into powerlifting, there's a lot to come before that, to be honest. I think when I finished school, you're in between years and you're not sure what you're going to do. So I said, I'll take a year out, as you do. And I never really had a career path or something that I wanted to pursue. So I started hanging out with friends, and you started kind of experimenting, and, you start to meet girls and stuff. So I started to get into trouble. And it just kind of spiraled. It was little things, and started to get in trouble more. And I ended up being arrested for GBH. And this was when I was 17. So I served a sentence of 2 years, so 17 to 19, or 18 to 20, shall I say. When I got arrested, I was 18. And that's actually where I first went to the gym. So that's where I first actually learned about training. And it was just like a release. It was just when they would let you out your cell, it would be a way to kind of train yourself. And in a way, to be honest, I was training myself for some kind of an imaginary war or something. I don't know, because I was just frustrated that I ended up in it. And then towards the end, as I was always trying to get down for gym, because you have to put your name on the list for you to go to gym at certain times. Sometimes there'll be extra gym. And then I saw like guys that were out of their cell. They were the gym orderlies, the guys who were prisoners that worked in the gym. So that got me thinking, maybe I would want to do something related to the gym. So I was released, kind of still messing around with some of the peers and friends that I used to, or so-called friends I used to associate with then. Maybe got into one more bit of trouble. And then I decided I'm going to try to pursue a career in fitness or something to do with the gym. I managed to get an apprenticeship. So it was very rare that the government was going to pay for you to learn your level 2, and also you'd have some work experience. So I did that for 6 months. They offered me a job. And when they offered me the job, I kind of knew this is the path now. This is what I'm going to follow. So this is where I met that colleague. After working with him, he put me onto my strength coach. So that's where it started from. In terms of like after the English, so that was the BDFPA, the British Drug-Free Powerlifting. That was one federation that did drug-free powerlifting without equipment. Because when I started competing, it was very rare to do classic or raw lifting. It was all equipped internationally. So my coach said the goal is to go international. I won the European in the World Drug-Free Powerlifting Federation. I won the Worlds the same year as well. And then British powerlifting was starting to pick up speed. Knee sleeves were starting to come into play, and the international scene was on the rise. So equipped lifting required a lot of hands, a special club. And I was just training out of a commercial gym, me and my coach, me going to his gym, filming my lifts, training at my gym. You know, no Alico, no special powerlifting bar, just a Chinese bar. But I just think it was just hooked on the fact of, you know, trying to get stronger, like pushing the boundaries. So after winning the Worlds in the World Drug-Free, I went over to British powerlifting. I came third. I think I did a divisional, did pretty well. And then I came third at my first British. So I was like, that's not too bad, but, you know, I want to do better. Did it again the next year. I think I came second. So I was getting closer, but there was still a big gap. The following year, I think I won it. And then that's when international selection came about. So making it to the IPF Europeans, and also the World Classic. So this was always the goal, the pinnacle, because I feel like the competition in British powerlifting on the IPF was a lot higher than it was in the World Drug-Free. So I got there. I finished 8th at the Worlds. I finished 6th at the Europeans. I think I did another Europeans. I missed the Worlds another year because I couldn't get a visa because of my conviction. So I was good enough to make the team, but I couldn't get a visa in time. So that one was a tough one, kind of like the past catching up with me. And then just the last few years been focusing on coaching. So the last year's British, I didn't really do well. I came 7th, I think. But I think I was focusing on coaching. I had an athlete who was coming up also pushing for the British Championship. So, you know, I just had to kind of reassess. So now I'm going to go up into the 105s, a new weight class, and hopefully try to challenge in that class. So.
Hey, that's massive, mate. Like that touches on something that I literally talk about all the time, with the gym being like some sort of purpose, and it can pull you off the wrong path and stick you on a better one where you can end up, you know, constructing yourself in whatever way. And there's so many people I've either coached, been around, been mates with, myself or whatever, that's done exactly the same thing, where they're like, right, because I got into the gym, it got me out of the tin, it got me out of addiction, it got me out of whatever it was. Yeah, mate, and that's a massive, like, kudos to you, to be like, okay, I'm gonna come in and work on the barbell. But it's the greatest, like, metaphor for life, right? Like, the bar doesn't give a shit. It's increments, 1 kilo at a time and all that. And yeah, I think for a male mind anyway, because we are the the dumber side of the species. I think we're like a cat in headlights a lot of the time with all these like things around us, especially when you come out of like education, right? And it's like, do whatever the fuck you want to do. Like, well, I don't know what I want to do. And it's like, well, I could do like everything from A all the way to Z. So let's do it all. You know what I mean? But the gym helps you stay within four walls, keep yourself fucking level. If you don't do, obviously, your food, your sleep, your mobility, all that type of stuff, manage your stress, whatever it is, then performance inside the gym is going to suffer. You don't want that to happen. So then outside your gym, you've got less time to end up fucking around with people that you probably shouldn't be fucking around with. Yeah, mate. And it's really, it's more, it's comforting to hear people with like similar stories, and yeah, okay, we go down different paths or whatever, but it's still inside the gym. Okay, doesn't matter what you've fucking done outside. You come in here to better yourself, and then you're gonna come back tomorrow, and that's awesome.
I think also I could have never imagined some of the places that gym or training and powerlifting could have taken me, and some of the people I've met, and just the general life experience. I think I was quite narrow-minded, as in small, staying local, and I think trying to impress people who didn't really matter. And I found a way to impress people in a positive way, I think, express myself in a way that isn't going to harm anyone, that's going to make me feel good and make my peers feel proud. So, and also a smaller circle as well. So with true friends, you know that they actually care about you. You know that what they say matters, rather than, saying one thing and doing another. But yeah, I mean, now I just look back and think, I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I've been in that place and been in these places, but somehow I did. So I thank the gym a lot. The gym has a lot to do with that. So.
For sure, man. And even if it's not like the actual training aspect, it's like you said, the people that come in and they end up pulling you out of the shit. More times than not, like, it's like I say to my buddy at the moment, like, Nana, I owed you a set from last week. I was like, what do you mean? Like, you were like fucked up, couldn't fucking move, and you were like shaking on the floor. I was like, yeah, but nah, like, you went hard for 3 sets, I went hard for 2. Like, I owe you a fucking set. Like, these people end up like pulling you forward. And yeah, man, it's fascinating, the types of people you meet in the gym, and they are the types of people you want around you, because they're ones that they're dedicated. Dedication is freedom, as Jocko says. Discipline is freedom, I should say.
Yeah, I think also consistency, like with training, everything else just seems to fall into place. There just really isn't any time for anything else, as in like associating with those kind of people and thinking about growth of business and generally growth in life. It's like you kind of see what's important. I think the things that I valued then, I don't value now. And I think even some of the people who I used to consider my peers, they look at what I'm doing and they appreciate what I've done. Maybe not what they're doing now, but they still recognize that, he's doing something, and in that particular field, what he's doing, like, he seems like he's excelling. He's kind of found like what he wants to do. So I think even that's comforting as well. So
I also think it's really important to share that story, because there's obviously kids growing up like every day, right? And they're going to be in exactly the same situation as you, exactly the same situation as me. And like hearing a story and be like, holy fuck, like what? They were able to do this, blah, 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 get out of it, and now like kind of build something for themselves that you genuinely had no idea about. Like, I think it's dead important. You just be like, hey, there's another way out of this. And like use training and use the gym as an outlet and a means to further yourself, like whether it's through a scholarship, whether it's literally just making you a little bit healthier, whether it's like learning how to then coach and then program, and then you can basically have a job like an apprenticeship like you did, or it's just fucking meeting people that's just like, oh yeah, I could get you a job in like a cleaning business or whatever. At least you've then got a job, you got money in your pocket, and then you can pay for the fucking roof over your head.
Yeah. And I think that kind of you talking about that leads me on to my next point is, I think in some way, I don't know how it's all going to come together, but some way I want to give it back, and just talking a bit more about my experience of where I was at one point and where I am kind of now, or where I've been to, is possible. You think that you're down on your luck and you'll never be able to do something, but there's opportunities. It just depends how hard you push, and you will have some difficult decisions to leave people behind, but it's for you, it's for the better of yourself. Some of these people, they don't really care for your well-being, and you're still trying to impress them. And I think that's something that I would want to talk to a younger me. I wish someone could speak to a younger me, especially from a sporting perspective. There's a lot of talented youths who are they don't know what they have, and you put them in a certain field and they'll be very, very competitive. And it just gives them something to wake up every day and think, actually, I want to be the best at that. And people will respect me for that. I'll be respected for just doing that thing. It doesn't have to be sport. It might be music, or it might be something. They'll be respected for that. So I think that's kind of what I want to kind of dedicate some time to. I have been doing a few things to work with some younger youth, and also some criminal boards as well. So just speaking, giving back a little bit from my experience. So.
That's awesome, and we're on exactly the same page. And that's something that really pisses me off about the UK, of the funding for youth sport is basically non-existent. It's like pay to play society. If you're not middle or upper class, you're basically fucked. You're training out on the street, literally on the bloody pavement. And it's something that, I coached PE in a school in inner city Manchester, right, in a place called Moss Side, and the amount of talent, raw talent, you just see in that school, I'm like, holy fuck. I'd like to say I was a half decent rugby player, you know what I mean? But holy shit, these kids, if you would have taught them how to play rugby, obviously everything's just football, right, in the UK, but if you'd have taught them how to play rugby, they would absolutely dominate. I would guarantee at least 5 of them would make it to maybe north of England, maybe whole of England, maybe academy, and then they've pursued themselves and opened up new opportunities, right, new doors. And I think it is down to the likes of ourselves to open up that conversation, and then to go in and just be like, hey, can we just talk to the kids? Hey, well, this is kind of, this is the path I chose and it landed me in the fucking slammer, or this is the path I chose and it landed me fucking homeless, or whatever. I was like, well, it's probably not the greatest of ideas. You guys are in a much better position than fucking we were. And then look where we are now,
Yeah, exactly.
First competition, number 1, gone at internationals, worlds. That's bizarre. You would have told that to your younger self, and you'd have just been like, nah, you are on fucking crack, mate.
Yeah, no, I know. I think that's also sometimes now, having more time is where you think you've been in those places, and if I could just speak to them, if I could just give me half an hour, and that's a way of giving back. Even if one of 30 children takes something away, then you're still giving something back. Even if another child a couple of years down the line thinks about it, or gets in contact about something, that's also it. So I'm also networking all the time, and that's what the beauty is of meeting people who do all different things. I know many teachers as well, and then when they hear my story, because some people never knew, they just know me for powerlifting, and he's worked in the gym, and that's all they know. And then when you tell them that that's what's actually happened, yes, some people do look at you differently. That's okay. But other people usually tend to respond positively and say, look, well done for overcoming that. And I think you'd be great if you could speak to these children this age, or I'd like to show something that you spoke about, to these children this age. I work with these children. So I think that's definitely something that's kind of leading me. That's the path that I really want to open up. So
it's like breaking the stigma of you have to be perfect, right? Which doesn't make any sense. How can we be fucking perfect when you're born not knowing anything, and then obviously you've got to learn all these lessons. And I think there's only one way you can take it once you start opening up about your story. It's just like, holy shit, like that's incredible. Like you've come from here to here, or there to here, and yeah, it's inspiring. Like, and yeah, just literally standing in front of people. Hey, okay, I got a story to tell. You know, like the Biggie song, I got a story to tell. Like, um, I think it needs to be put out there, man.
Yeah, I think also what you touched upon about just like kids in school, like the kids who had or were slightly more affluent, they had greater opportunities. And I mean, that was apparent. Like I even remember when I was playing football, I didn't have a pair of boots. Like I didn't have a pair of shin pads. And those kids would have multiple boots, multiple shin pads. Their parents would always come and drop them off to the game and pick them up. I know that, and that's nothing against them, but that's just kind of how it was. So it was always hard to kind of be on top of that as well. So, to have someone to drop you to training, whether it's a little further away, and someone to pick you up or someone to give you some sort of packed lunch, I didn't really have that. So I know what you're saying about in terms of giving those children who don't necessarily have that much some opportunity for sport to push them forward.
Yeah, man, and that's a big gripe with that's a big personal gripe with me and back home is like it's such a class system, as in financial class system. Like we'll step on the ones at the bottom to then get a little bit higher up, and it doesn't make any fucking sense because the ones at the bottom are usually the entire workforce.
Yeah.
And also, we'll say I'm going to generalize here, but most of the people at the bottom, most of the kids at the bottom have a broken home, right? So they're either growing up with a single dad, a single mom, a guardian, a whatever it is, for whatever situation or circumstance, and they no longer have like we can speak from a male perspective, right? Because obviously we're both males.
Yeah.
If the dad ain't around, then you don't have that male guidance. You don't know what it is to be a man. You don't know how to deal with yourself. We're never told how to like, oh, how are you feeling? It's like, nah, it's like, all right, let's like kill everything. Let's just like fucking fight, destroy everything, rip the head off everyone, and I'll come out on top because I'll be the one ending the fight. And that isn't the best of ideas. It's landed us in more issues than it's probably solved. And that's another problem. Like they lack the role model, and you kind of lack the childhood too, because you have to become an adult when you're still a child, and yet you flip it over, and the more quote unquote affluent families are usually together. All right, again, I'm tiring everyone in the same brush. I don't mean to, but argument's sake,
Yeah.
they're usually together. They have that role model they can develop through a child, and then once they get to adulthood, they're like, okay, I've had all the support I've ever needed. All right, let's like make a go at this life thing, with still support. And then you flip it over to the other side. You're like, they're just fucking fighting, and they're 12. They're not even in their teens yet.
Yeah. Like that even touches kind of home. Is like without a father figure, there's many things like that you should be learning about when you're transitioning from a teenager to a man. There's so many things, like the conversations that need to be had, again, just about expressing yourself, because most of the time you only really express yourself in that aggressive manner, that angry nature, that fighting, even just holding things in, think you'll be able to take everyone by yourself. And that's where, for me, I look towards the streets or the peers to try to get that kind of respect from someone, and following the way that they're doing things and thinking that that's what a man is supposed to do. But without any guidance, there isn't anybody to kind of keep you in check and say, well, actually, you shouldn't be doing that. You want to do this because later on in life, that's what's going to happen. Like some of the opportunities that I've missed out on, and some of the problems that you come upon. So, or it might not be the streets, it might be alcohol, it might be drugs, it could be anything, that what might be when a child might turn to that without that father figure. So
Was your old man around?
no, he was around like here and there when I was maybe like 10, from that kind of age, but he had other children. So I think he was kind of between houses, and he had probably had other women as well. So he always said he would come. He always promised he would come, but he never came. So, after a while, you were thinking, I've got to look to someone else for a way that I should kind of be living the life or looking up to. So, not really around, and haven't seen him in many, many years. So,
yeah, for sure. And then you got to end up figuring it out, right? You've got to. I wrote it down in some sort of fucking poem one time, and it was like a man's troubles or a man's problems is placed on a boy's shoulders, or something along those lines, right? I'll have to dig it out. And like, how the fuck are you supposed to like figure that shit out? How are you supposed to know that when, one, you don't have a clue what the world is, because you've never gone anywhere apart from your hometown. Like, two, like you're not knocking around people that you probably should be knocking around with, and then three, you're a friggin' child. Like, how are you supposed to like figure these things out?
Yeah, I think also is, to a certain extent, it's having too much freedom. It's just, there's not many rules. Like some of my friends, they wouldn't be allowed to stay out at certain times, but I would, because there wasn't really anybody to tell me otherwise. So that's when you didn't really establish that. That's when it wasn't really clear. I didn't see my dad going to work and coming back every day. So that wasn't something that you was thinking about. I was never seeing that. I was seeing him come here and there, and then hanging around with people who were doing this, and they looked like they were living a certain life and fast money, etc., and just idolizing things that's not important. So that's where the mistakes, and that's where I think your father figure or guardian would help, or having parents together, or having even a dad, even if they're not together, that's going to come and actually ask you about what's going on. But yeah, that never happened. So yeah, I just got left to my own devices, and that's where I think a lot of mistakes were made.
It's a really weird situation to be in now, right? Because obviously everyone's talking about it. Mental health scenes like now talking about it, or developing to. We're now talking about like the social issues, like just there's more conversations in general, right? So kind of like the generation right now before they have kids is really just in a bit of a catch-22 situation. You're like, oh, do you put your head in the sand and be like, well, fuck you, like I didn't get it, so these motherfuckers that I'm gonna birth aren't gonna get it, and blah blah blah, and we just allow the ball to just keep rolling in the wrong direction? Or do you have to like eat shit and be like, okay, well, that really hurt me and made me make all these mistakes because of this, but I'm going to use that in a positive way and then give, the next generation something that we didn't necessarily have, which is hard because, part of you is like resentful. And it's like, well, if I didn't have it, you can't have it. You know what I mean? But it takes some courage, takes some maturity.
Yeah, I think definitely I'm sitting more on the side of, trying to give something that I didn't have. Some of the opportunities that probably weren't there for me when I was a little younger. So yeah, you kind of want to put a stamp on it, and the generation is a lot faster. When I was growing up, social media and things like this, and camera phones, and these things was just taking off. So the children are exposed to a lot more. They see a lot more things. So maybe they're seeing things sooner. So I don't know, somehow you want to kind of show them that that's not the way, but it's difficult because technology and everything's moving so fast. So, it is a catch-22, I think, in that sense too.
I'd love to see like obviously we have YMCA's and fucking youth centers and all that type of shit, but it's basically a crack den. It's places you go to do a bloody deal. So I'd love to see an actual like state funded gym where you go in and you're like, nah, you're gonna be coached, sorry. And they're gonna try and wreck you. Like obviously everything's got
I know what you mean, obviously.
Yeah, but they're like, all right, you're gonna leave this fucking gym and your legs are gonna be shaking and you're gonna have no energy to do anything. That would,
I think
that'd be amazing.
I think you know, the fact that even you're saying not have any energy to do anything, that's kind of like what happened when I first started training. When you trained, you didn't really have any energy to do anything. You'd had released that aggression, that testosterone release was gone. And also just touching upon the YMCA, I've lived in the YMCA. I lived in the YMCA for a period of time. And to be honest, that's all it was. There was just a lot of dealing going on there.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really anything that was helping in any way. There was a canteen downstairs, but there was just a lot of dealing. It just, there wasn't really any motivation, any push, anything to do with like doing better with your life. It was just, the YMCA wasn't really a good experience for me. So I would like to see something even just more in the push towards sport. But I don't know if funding is on the up. Funding seems to be on the down currently. So
I think it should be in schools, man. I think every school should have a gym attached to it, and I think every school should hire an S&C coach. You know, that is works for the school, but obviously is externally qualified and comes in and coaches. Okay, this is a barbell, you know, and before you even master the barbell, you're gonna master your own fucking body weight. And we're going to learn how to squat, hinge, move, crawl, push, pull, run, sled, all that type of shit. And then it's like, all right, cool. Then you'll goblet squat and all that type of nonsense. And then, okay, let's learn the barbell. You learn some powerlifting. You might learn some power movements for the Olympic lifts. And then like mentally, these kids are in a much better position. And then also you're developing some fucking wicked athletes. You know, you look over to the States, right? And they all have the youth strength and conditioning like down. Their academies are top notch. They all know how to squat, clean, you know, all that type of stuff. And then you look at like the athletes they produce and they absolutely just like dominate. You're like, well, there's a correlation here, you know?
Well, exactly. That's exactly what you said. You know, you said about the barbell being introduced, like playing football, and I don't know how it was for you playing rugby, like it was probably introduced a bit more. They never talked about weight training. They only ever talked about football. You only ever just kick the ball, and to get better at kicking the ball, you just kick the ball. That was it. There was never in my mind a thought that I need to go and lift up some weights until the vanity aspect came in. That was the only reason. There was never a link to performance that actually, if I maybe can bend down, if I can squat down, if I can hinge at the hips, I might be able to play a bit better. But if I go on a run, or if I run around the pitch, or if I kick the ball like in a session this many times, we'll do some drills, then that's the only way I'll get better. But that was only just because of the coaching and the way that the curriculum was built. That's even in football teams, there was never any talk of, there was never even any small bits of gym equipment. So I don't know how it was for you playing rugby, but that's how it was for football.
Yeah, like the whole of the UK is like our whole system is like based around like skill development in it rather than athletic development. And you see the athletes we produce out of the UK and Europe, like they are so fucking skillful. But at the same time, like you've cherry picked like one individual out, like, well, this has got like a bloody raw talent, and everyone else is just falling by the wayside because they got fucking injured or whatever. But Ruggers was a little different. Like I played for a club that had like this tiny fucking weight room, like old gear, concrete floor, you know what I mean? Like absolute shit all of a thing. But was amazing. And they basically, I got into it. I started training because I was super aggressive. All right. So that was like, it got the outlet out for me. Like, I saw my dad, but it was like once every like 6 weeks, maybe 6 to 8 weeks. And whatever, and things in my head was not the greatest. So I was like, all right, I'm going to train so I don't end up fucking murdering someone. And would just train like all day. Like it was silly. I would train fucking all day. Between like dips between the bins, I had like a rusty pull-up bar in the fucking alleyway that I would like just do some like chin-ups on. But then my mum was seeing a lad at the time who bought like a rickety old bench press and put it in the back garden. So that's like and I just kind of like started like pushing some tin. kind of trying to figure it out. Ended up being able to go to like a local gym at the time that was just like, all right, yeah. Like it was, what's it called? Hard labor. And it got voted the #1 bodybuilding gym in the Northwest, which was pretty cool. But they were like pretty laxed with who came in because everyone would just help everyone type shit. Which was really cool. So I kind of just started like shoving around through there. But now with Ruggers, like they kind of opened the door up when we were about 13, and was like, okay, some of you are probably going to need to get a little bit bigger. Go train. So what do you mean go train? I was like, well, go pick up some weights. I'm like, okay. So, I'd train through like dinner time, and then I would fucking I'd train before school as well, and then I'd literally go from school, train for like 2 hours, and then would go out on the pitch and then train on the pitch. So we were just training all the time, and you end up developing a lot of fucking issues because you don't know how to train, and
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Like we had access to it, but yeah, no guidance. You know what I mean? It was never like this is how you do it.
No structure. I think that kind of resonates. Kind of like when I started training when I was released from prison. It was I was training with my brothers at the time, and just no structure, just no idea of like periodize, no idea of like volume, no idea of resting, training multiple times a day, spending 3 hours in the gym, like, not really sure what a good hurt was and what a bad hurt was, just training. So it was fun, of course. It is some fun memories, like you did some fun stuff, but when you think about it, it was stupid. You just like when you look at it now, you're like, yeah, what was I doing?
It was definitely stupid, but at the same time, I think there's space for it. I think there's time for it because you develop like this mental toughness, right? So if me and you are just like working out and we're like, all right, we're just gonna like fucking bench press until one of us literally dies. And then it's like, all right, I'm off the bench, so you fucking got to get on it. And then you're off it, so I fucking got to get on it. And it's like, no shit's given. 5 hours later, we're still like half dying. Like, yeah, it's a dumb idea, but I don't know, you develop that fucking mental determination. Just be like, well, you fucking carried on, so I've got to carry on, and this hurts, but let's keep going.
I think that's the healthy peer pressure, like that same peer pressure that I had like on the streets was there in the gym, and it was only for the better. And I think that's what I thrived off, of someone being like, oh, last week he did like, I don't know, 100 kilos, but this week he's doing 120. So I'm going to try to do 120. I'm like, he's getting close. So I'm going to try to do 130. And that was it. I mean, there definitely is. It's a bit of both. I could say I had some great times at, like a spit and sawdust gym that I used to train at, and just rusty machines and things didn't match and probably was no safety at all. But who cares, man? It was some of the best times, like, broken up sessions, have something to eat, go back into the gym, do more. So yeah, there is definitely a place for it.
Yeah, you end up, you forget all about, all your problems outside the gym, and it's just like, okay, let's just deal with like all this like raw emotion that's running through us at the moment, and let's just fucking lift some iron.
Yeah, man, that's
Hell
true.
yeah.
It is the big stress relief. So
yeah, so like seeing gyms being able to like come up through into high schools would be ideal. But I think I actually think it goes down to like philanthropists, because we elect a government, right? And we're like, oh, they're gonna like fucking solve our problems, and if we think that's true, then you're a fucking idiot. So it's like, okay, let's put these posh boys and girls in a room, and they'll argue with each other and call each other tossers, and let's let us actually do the deeds that need to be done. And I think it comes down to people that are making absolute shit tons of money just going into the local council and being like, hey, this is what I'm doing. and this is for the youth, and they're going to get charged a quid each session, and it's going to go into a fucking honesty box, and that's probably going to go to a soup kitchen. You know, like, we're going to fucking run it because we own 5 companies and they all make a fuck ton of money. It's like, I think that's the way that needs to, it needs to go, rather than just like wishing upon a star with the bloody government.
Well, not the government. And I think that's also where networking comes into play. You know, when someone just links up with someone and they're really on board with the idea, that's how things are going to take off. And I think I'm kind of trying to do that, trying to see what doors can be opened. And I think hopefully that's also what, you know, you've got the same kind of mindset as well. And you're not just the only one. There's so many people who are also thinking the same. And hopefully this is a thing that starts to build up some momentum. So
just
yeah,
giving them
I fingers crossed.
Just giving them an outlet, man, you know, fucking like a second chance, or just like another decision. Like, there is another fucking way, you know, like, you go talk to any kids and spend any decent amount of time with them. Like, they genuinely believe, and I was the same, they would genuinely believe there is only fucking one way for them. Their
Yeah,
life is already panned out for them. They have to be this like labeled fucking scumbag or chav or whatever. They're going to end up in the same fucking place as their old man, or the same place as their bloody peers. And it's like, we're either going to be dead or in the tin by 21. You're like,
yeah,
really? You're 12 and you're talking like that, man? Like, that's not the way.
yeah. And it's getting younger and younger. And I think that's the scary thing. That's where you'd like to get hold of them. You know, like, it was like for me in PE, PE was like my favorite class, and I'd always have my kit and I'd always be on time and I always had respect for the PE teacher. But in the other classes, I didn't really care. And I think that's also kind of like the kind of kids that I'd want to kind of get hold of and say, look, like, I know, like, you don't really want to do the academics, but you got to do the academics to leave the doors to open for other things. But yeah, okay, push the sport. But to do that, you have to be smart as well. So that's kind of like the kids that I'd want to speak to, like, who are just passionate about sport. They don't know what, but they just like doing sports. So
Yeah, it's also, it like touches upon like the whole structure of like education though, right? Because it's all like, it allows like one type of learner to thrive, you know, like a book smart person sits down, kind of reads, copies, knows the answers, blah blah blah. I was definitely not that fella. And I'm sure
yeah,
you weren't either. Like, I was fucking like, nah, I need to go do something. I need to like repeatedly do it like a million times for me to remember it. Like, if I just read it, it's going to go in one ear out the fucking other.
yeah,
Like, I think I fucking don't know the answer. Like, I'm sure someone who's a lot smarter than me will come up with it. But it's like, hey, we need like multiple fucking different avenues for these kids to end up getting a qualification out of. You know, yeah, you have you can go do a vocational study at like 16. And I'm like, all right, but you've like failed them for fucking 16 years. You know, so they now have a hatred for the fucking education system. So why would they stay in it for another 2 years? Nah, they'll tell you to go fuck yourself and leave because they're making some serious dough on the side, you know.
yeah,
So it's really weird, and I don't know the answer. It seems like it's a little bit more progressive over here. There's a lot more opportunities to do things physical, and to learn through sport. Like, I'm working with a school at the moment, and they took kind of strength and conditioning, PE. They call it SLP, and I can't remember what it stands for. But basically, they're learning how to construct a training program. They do the training program, and then like have to have like some sort of coursework at the end of it. But they're training, like their sessions in school is they come into the gym. I coach them through S&C, and I'm just like, right, we'll write this down, blah blah blah. You know, there's different ways of progressing. You don't have to just slap weight on the bar. You know, like overall training volume, like refining a skill and all that type of shit. You know, and it's just like a different way of learning rather than just like, oh no, I have to sit down and like write an essay again.
yeah, man. Like, I guess all of what you're saying resonates, and especially what you're doing with the kids, man. That's amazing. That's like something also which is been thought of, but not sure how that would be possible. But yeah, just to educate them that it's not only load, like, because that's all I thought of when I started training. And if you kind of had that mindset that you don't just have to physically put more on the bar to be improving, that would be really good. And also these movements can carry over to all of the other sports that they want to do. So
I think I don't know, you just provide a space for them where they can thrive in any aspect that they kind of want to. You give them a little bit more free reign, but then they also need a little bit more like hard punishment, and maybe punishment's not the word, but a little bit of like tough love, because in school you can't necessarily like raise your voice with kids these days, because they'll like fucking throw a chair at you, and there's no repercussion, or it's just go stand outside. Just go stand outside. It's like, well, if I go stand outside, miss, I'm going to go run into another fucking classroom and start throwing shit, or I'm going to go run around the corridors or whatever. So it's like, you come into the gym, they're not a teacher, they're a coach. Like, it's a little bit of a different dynamic. And you're like, look, if you're late, I'm going to fuck you up with some sort of circuit, and you're going to throw up today. I guaranteed. I remember this one kid.
But that's
that's
like but that also. No, go ahead. Sorry.
No. It's just a little delayed.
No, that kind of reminds me, like, just from football, when if you were messing about, like, you might have to do an extra lap. Like, you just did it because you messed up. Like, it'll be like, you'll be doing a drill, and if you mess up the drill, you've got to do a lap. That was like some form of discipline. That was kind of teaching you that, and it was kind of in a harsh, and they would say, and you'd do it. It wouldn't be like that was like the rules, and they were kind of dishing out the law, and you was accepting it. It was part of you being able to do what you want to do, but you have to do those. So you can kind of see where that parallels with life. You can transfer that anywhere else. So I agree, man. Like, just someone who's saying this is the law. Like, when you come in this building, this is the law. Whatever you do when you go outside, kind of, it's up to you. But here, these are the rules, and you better abide by the rules. And that stands in the gym today. That's when everybody comes in the gym. It doesn't matter where you come from. When you come in there, these are the rules, the unwritten rules. Some of them are on the wall, some of them are not, but these are the rules. So
yeah, and it ends up bleeding off into like in other aspects of life, right? And that's fucking broken memory. Like, if any of us were late for rugby training, none of us would touch a rugby ball all training. We would have to do the entire session of 2 hours of fitness training, and then after our allotted training time, that's when we would start skill training. I was like, so we've literally just like doubled our training time. Or what was another one? Oh, it was like -6 one time, and we were in the weight room, and they're like, look, lads, like, the pitch is a block of ice. Like, we can't run on it, and if you fall, you're probably gonna fucking break something. So like half the team, the backs, they were like, all right, go home, because you need to run drills, and you can't really do anything with that. And us fucking like a little bit chubby around the outside, a little bit heavier motherfuckers, they're like, all right, you're gonna go outside and you're gonna do line outs. So what do you mean? I was like, so you want me to stand there in -6 and chuck this fat bastard above my head so he catches a ball, and we're gonna do it for an hour and a half? I was like, come on, man. Like, and he was like, oh, do you want to stay for 2 hours? I'm like, okay, yeah, no worries.
Yeah, man. It was like, at the time, even then, you tried to give it a little bit of jip, but then they will still put you back in line, and you think, ultimately, yeah, they're always going to win this one. They're always going to win this one, so you have to. So that's good. Yeah. Tough love.
That fucking kid, he was 3 minutes late. 3, all right? It would have taken you longer to take a shit. It was 3 minutes late, and he came in. I looked him in the fucking eye. He was 16, so I could give him a bit more shit. I looked him in the eye. I was like, "Don't ever fucking be late again." And he was just like, "What?" Like, I was walking from whatever. I was like, "I don't give a shit, pal." I was like, "Today you're gonna run the gauntlet."
Yeah, like, but and again, he gets it. He gets it. I'm sure he got it in the end as well.
Oh, he did. He was like, he meant to do 3 sets. And he did 1 set, and he lay on his back on the floor, literally his eyes closed. And he was like, coach, I've never been pushed this hard in my life. I was like, good. You got 2 more fucking sets. I don't care, mate. I don't care. Don't be late. This is a
Yeah, no.
non-negotiable.
I think that also kind of paves the way now, like about being late. I hate being late. I don't like to be late. So it's good timekeeping, isn't it? That's also good discipline for timekeeping, because you need to be on time for stuff. So.
And how many lessons did you learn from either a coach or a training partner in the gym or a football coach that you like use every day?
Oh, so many, man.
There you go.
So many, man. So like I think like my PE teacher, like I look up to him. I thank him. Like, he kind of talks about me in terms of in a PE aspect to some of the kids that go to the school now. Like, but I respect him because he was harsh, but he was fair, and he knew kind of what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially in that moment that he was the father figure. So I respect that. So it's good, man.
That's it. Like you regain your role model, and you have someone to look up to and be like, well, they did X, Y, and Z back in their day, and they're no longer taking my shit, and they can see through all my bullshit. It's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna respect this person, blah, blah, blah. And then if you get picked for your team and and all that stuff, and you go through that, like basically gladiators, right? It's like legal warfare is sport. And you beat the drums before the pitch and punch the door as we used to do. Everyone used to have to punch the door. Well, we didn't have to, but everyone just got so riled up, or headbutt each other. It was fucking crazy. But yeah, it's like a way of like harnessing that aggression, and then like it's something like the gym and then playing rugby like fucking saved me, because I remember my first rugby game, I got in 4 separate fights with 4 separate people just because I was like, all right, if things get a little hot, I'm going to kick your head in. That's it. I don't care about the sport. I am going to fucking break you. And then, yeah, I remember getting pulled aside, by the coach. Like, look, mate, I know this is the first time you play in the sport, but you can't do that. You're just going to get sent off and you're going to get banned and you're not going to be able to play this sport again. I was like, okay, well, like, how can I hit them? It's like, if they have the ball, or if you have the ball, you can go as hard as you want. I was like, really? It's like, yeah. I was like, all right. You just start knocking people out. But, within the rules, and you're like, okay, like then you start developing discipline, and again, it's a way of reinforcing you can do things as hard as you want, but it has to be within these lines. It creates this this very narrow vision for a young male, and I think it's really fucking important. Like I said earlier, like our mind is very corruptible, right? You go, especially when fucking ladies screw everything up because they're like, oh,
yeah,
hey now, what are you doing? You start looking that way, you start looking down, whether it's like fucking drugs away, whether it's alcohol, whether it's like crime, whether it's fucking all the above, or you just be like, no, I have to train in the morning, so I need 8 hours of sleep, and because I need to train in the morning, I need a good breakfast, so I need to go to the shop and all that type of shit. And I think it's really important for a young man and a young lady, but I obviously can't speak for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. A lot of that, the mind was swayed obviously by the female, so you can, because you're keen to impress, and
yeah, man,
you're not sure maybe the way to impress, and that takes some time, right? And you start to figure out the things that you think was impressing is not really impressing. So yeah, and you get focused again. So it's good. Like sport is just, you kind of enjoy that time with kind of, chilling with the lads, so to speak, and doing things and kind of cracking jokes and that kind of thing. So yeah, sport definitely brought about discipline. So you couldn't be up, the night before the game, you'd be like, no, I'm not going to do anything, or you couldn't be out before training. So yeah, man,
that's it. Or you got to go home early because you got to go to training. And yeah, there's many times I fucking drag myself off the park because I'm like, oh shit, gotta go to training, And it's like, what would have happened if you're out past bloody midnight on the park? Like, God knows what, Like,
Yeah.
It's dead important, and maybe it is down to us to then fucking create something. Who knows?
Well, the ball starts here.
The ball does start here. Yeah. Lad, I fucking appreciate your time. I'm gonna have to jump off because I have a athlete in like 15 minutes.
No worries, bud. Thank you for having me, man.
Absolute legend. Like, good luck with coaching and all the athletic endeavors, getting back out on the platform. And then, mate, I can't wait to see what's going to happen with in terms of like the youth and what avenue you go down. And if you got any fucking ideas and need any help, you know where I am.
Sure, man. I'll keep you posted, man, for sure.
Mate, do it. Fantastic, lad. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You take
All
care,
right.
man.
You too, lad.